This is Dave Meltzer live at the National here with Entrepreneurs, the Playbook, and I got two of the leading entrepreneurs in the collector space. I have the CEO of the Collectors, Nat Turner, and Brian Ludden, CEO, founder of Ludex. Welcome to the Playbook. How much of the movement today is because of technology, and how much is just the momentum and inertia of more people because of COVID or whatever being interested in collecting?
Yeah, I think it's very much both. I mean, technology wasn't really in the card hobby, I would say 5-6 years ago. And you'd go around the National and very few, there'd be the manufacturers and dealers, but there'd be very few startups, VC funded.
And signings, that's where I made my money.
A lot of signings, yeah. But very few tech startups, if you will. And now you walk around, I mean, there's probably 20, 30, 40 VC-backed tech companies. But, if I had to, put percentages, I'd say most of it, though, I think is just general interest in what, Panini, Topps, and others, very interesting manufacturing practices, more access, more cards, getting younger people into it. I think a big part of it's online breaking. Yeah, I think Whatnot deserves a ton of credit for Instagram as well and YouTube of driving interest through remote breaking.
Right,
yeah.
Stimulating.
Which I think you could say is tech as well, but that's really the biggest. In my opinion.
Brian, how much of it, it's interesting because I've been in tech a long time, and I started in a really boring, non-passionate, but specialty of legal research online, which still yielded $3.4 billion in 1995. So it wasn't a bad deal, but there wasn't a lot of people on earth that had a passion for legal research, but yet the technology of Westlaw created huge value. How many people do you think in this space are driven by a childhood passion of collecting and then have applied, like Nat, extraordinary skills as an investment banker, as a technologist, or whatever the skill set may be? Because I don't meet many people in the space that don't have a passion or a story of, a trading card in their spokes of their bicycle.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it's nostalgia, and it's like really just, it's Americana collecting. And it's interesting when you talk to them, if it's not trading cards, it's coins and like Funko Pops. But I really think that the people are generated, no matter who you are, how much money you have, when you open a pack of cards, it brings you back to childhood, and it's a bonding experience. And I saw a lot of that if you bring in athletes, and wow, he collects cards too. That's amazing. He and I are the same. And it's just, the community is small, but it's really, it's an interesting mix of people, and they do an awesome job at thinking about their childhood and getting back into the game and, embracing the new changes.
And so I find that food and collectibles have that same emotional attachment, that people will have a favorite food because when they were a kid, that's where their grandfather took them for ice cream or a hamburger or whatever the food is, or a city that they lived in during college. And it's always funny to see the outside person. The perceived value is completely a differential, right? Someone will take you got to go to my favorite place in Columbus, Ohio, because I went to Ohio State. And you're like, this sucks. But there's obviously some emotional attachment. We used to start just in sports and coins. That would, I think, take the entire industry. It seems that there's so many more things that we can collect today as well and authenticate. How and what really determines that, Pokemon phenomenon that exists, and I think will continue to exist because people now can connect the dots backwards?
Yeah. Nostalgia drives most collecting in my experience, both personally, but with PSA and PCGS, our grading brands. Everything I collect is things that I wish I owned as a kid. I couldn't afford. It's things that I saw in a card shop. My office, I've recreated the card shop that I used to go to as a kid.
Cool.
But I mean, and I'm not unique. I mean, I think a lot of people, and nostalgia is extremely powerful. We all want to be kids again, and it's a sometimes expensive way to create that connection back to your happiest, if you will, pure happiness as a 12-year-old. And so that's a big part of it. We see it with coins. It's more investing, prospecting, I think, with precious metals. But stamps, I think, comic books, I mean, it's all centered in our experience on nostalgia. it drives a lot for us, at least. Yeah.
And Brian, you're taking authentication to the next level, and you've really looked into the critical business issues behind it beyond the great capacity of your business at collectors. Sorry. And what are some of the aspects that Luddex that they specifically differentiate themselves? Because there's actually some business beyond actually the digital recognition. There's data and also integration involved.
Yeah. So the journey of Ludex was a long one and grueling, and I owe it everything I owe that Ludex is to my team. I mean, I was blessed with people who believed in the vision, who worked hard, who are more talented than I, and I subscribe to the old, if there's a smarter person next to you that can do the job, I want all.
That's why I'm here
people.
with you two.
Yeah.
The smartest one in the room. You're in the wrong room. I'm in the right room. So thanks for joining me, by the way.
Nice. And so yeah, the technology was really hard. It was way harder of a problem to solve than I initiated. So being an entrepreneur and being naive is sometimes helpful. If I would have known everything, I probably wouldn't have done it. So, but yeah, it was the technology and getting the parallels. Like that was it. I told my investors, if we don't get the parallels, we all lose our money. If we can get the parallels and train us and build our own database on that, then I think we can change an industry. And now we're connecting. We're going to come out in August with an eBay connector. I showed Nat before this meeting. I think that's going to be super powerful. I think it can grow the hobby and bring in collectors that have been dormant for quite a while.
Yeah, the ease that's created and the efficiencies of creating a marketplace, which you guys are the backbone of the marketplace. To that end, when you're analyzing the space now, you've done some of the biggest deals in the space as far as buying and selling the actual companies themselves. How do you separate your passion and emotion when we're talking in the billions of dollars to identify the real business compared to a lot of fluff and vapor, which always exists in technology?
Yeah. I mean, in our case, so when myself and our investor group, we wanted to acquire Collectors Universe. I mean, it was a publicly traded company with audited I mean, we knew
The finance
extremely well, what we were buying. We didn't know how bad of a problem they had as far as under capacity, if you will. So
which is a good thing.
Still a problem. And we closed down for a year. We had to turn customers away to competitors and,
Wow.
for over a year, actually. So it was still a very big problem. And so for us, it was a big leap of, I would say, faith. I agree with Brian. Like our team, I mean, I know nothing about operations. I'm a tech guy, and we've done a lot on the tech side, but our biggest accomplishment, our team, was the increase in capacity, which is an operational, mostly. There's tech involved, but in that short period of time, it was very operational. So there's no vaporware in ops. Like you can't fake your way to capacity.
Trust me.
Yeah, or
that
scale.
I'm good at.
There's no way around it. You could kind of do that in tech, but not in ops. And so that's the way we thought of Collectors is, let's just frankly shut down for a year, tell everybody we're closed, and just fix our shop and scale. We had to acquire a few companies that we talked about earlier. Card Ladder is a good example that brought data into the four walls that allowed us to provide better services to the customers. We bought an AI grading company to help with some of the scalability of grading. But there is in any industry, there's vaporware.
Yeah.
I find less of it in cards because we're all so passionate. And like, I'm sure Brian and I, pardon my language, like if a startup comes to us, we're like, well, that's bullshit. Like there's no way
Right.
you're doing that. You know what I mean? Like it's very easy to sniff it out because we're all so passionate. The ones that aren't passionate about the cards, but they're doing a startup, within 2 seconds, you realize that, there's probably not much there. So,
And looking and analyzing from my perspective as a business person and cross industries, which was one of the luxuries I have from the exposure of, at the highest level, getting to meet people like you in different industries. I'd like to ask both of you something that I see trending, and it applies to live and real things. So there's been an incredible interest, for example, in Taylor Swift. And I believe that part and parcel, all of the AI, all of the virtual access, all of the community building things that occur through artificial or virtual data, intelligence, exposure, awareness, and construct are enhancing anything real. And eventually, because of the deep fake and the copyability and the duplication that is occurring via technology, that people are going to want to more and more either know it's real without a doubt, or touch and feel it and see it in person. So for example, as a speaker, that's a really big deal because people, or an entertainer, they're going to want to see you in person, and the football stadiums are going to fill up again, like beyond belief, because there's a need for that. How does that apply, obviously to authenticating, to guarantee it's real, but actually still the value is, and I felt it here because I, love collecting cards. That even, I'm going to say this and Gary's going to kill me. Like the stupid V Friends card that Gary signed for me, I felt my adrenaline pump up once I held it, right? Instead of my V Friends NFT that I own, it gave me no surge of anxiety or thrill. How important is the real aspect of touching and feeling things?
Well, everyone wants to feel human, right? And feel alive and feel like, a part of something. AI diminishes a lot of that. And we created AI, the Vision AI. So it's a little different than, the chat GPT. But I see that. I see human beings being alive and passionate and feeling that. And therefore, there's always a yin and yang. And a lot of times what we think is going to happen on the one side, it actually grows the other side. And I do agree with you. I think it's going to be a whole revolution on wanting to see real stuff. And
yeah, we're kind of like the anti-NFT company. we love Arby's. This is going to sound funny, but when everyone was doing the Impossible Burgers and all that, Arby's came out and they're like, no, we are the beef company,
right.
And like we have the beef. We are not where you go to get, this new thing. And that we kind of feel that same way. We're like, hey, we're not the company if you care about NFTs. We're the physical collectibles, hold it in your hands, trading card, coin, video game, whatever. If you have something, you cherish it, you want to see if it's real, you want to maybe grade it so you can sell it, whatever, that's what we're about. And we've been asked and pushed, to have the PSA brand on, NFTs and board. I just don't understand it. And maybe I'm old now, but like, I just
try being me, buddy.
I just don't get it at all. And that's fine, and I see kids walking around with their avatar and the stuff on their phone are their NFTs, but I think the physical nature of cards and coins and collectibles is actually what's beautiful about it. So, yeah.
And now figuring out what's next, not necessarily essential in either of your business, because you're going to react to what's next and be able to do what you do to what's next. But I find it, really curious as someone who, you said, well, I'm getting old. I've had relationship with shoe companies forever, and no pun intended, I'm seriously kicking myself when you think like the head of Nike football was our client. He played football, and the amount of, Jordans I could have collected over the years if I only knew that a pair of shoes could be worth, $5,000. I'm trying to figure out, looking at and studying human nature, how and why something like tennis shoes would have it. You talked about nostalgia. Well, people are nostalgic about different things. Communities are siloed today. So where do you see the next big collectible property, nostalgic, thematic thing to collect?
That's a tough one.
I mean, we're seeing
it right after the show. So just tell me.
This isn't super unique, but I mean, you got to look at what. So generally 25 years is how long it takes for something to become vintage.
Okay.
So think about like a car. The value decreases for 25 years steadily. And then, 25 years later, like, hey, you know what? The Camaro 1999 or whatever, 1998, like, I bet you, if you look, the prices start going up. You see the same in cards. 25 years ago, like, you never could have told me that 80s wax and 90s basketball would be worth what they are today. But guess what? 25 years later, this stuff is now starting to become vintage, and so you look at that, and so Pokemon, what year did it come out? 1999. Why is it going crazy now?
25 years.
So you kind of look at those trends, and so just go around and look at what the kids were collecting 20 years ago. And, in my opinion, in the next 5 years.
Once again, I should have the Jerry Maguire collection 25 years ago. People be going crazy.
You had a lot slipping right through your fingers.
Exactly. And it'll continue because it's intelligent. How about you, Brian? What do you see? I love that as an indicator.
Yeah, there's the industry as a whole. I think NFT, I agree with Nat. And I don't understand the NFTs. I never bought one. I think we have the ability with fanatics coming into the industry to really revolutionize everything. And I think it's going to be good for the hobby. And I think it's going to create a better experience for shows. I think the brand is recognizable worldwide. So what I'm excited about is really like the global reach that I think Fanatics is gonna lend, and elevating shows. We created an interactive map for this show, which is great. And but there's gonna be so much more of that technology that comes in. So I'm excited about. I think shows are gonna really become like concerts and Comic-Con
last
stuff.
question. One thing I do know is marketplaces. And I understand two-sided marketplaces and how to build a market around something if you have the emotional attachment, whether it be from a 25-year nostalgic perspective or just a mass inertia that has occurred from some point in the past, like tennis shoes that may have a tie-in to a certain brand. To that end, the business itself relies upon the marketplace, and I believe technology. The one thing that bodes really well for both of you is I believe that we have not seen, this is still pre-chasm. People do not understand the size, scope, and scale of the marketplace. And I built my personal brand as a middle-aged mutant turtle, understanding how big the scope is. So like in everyone else's perspective, like how the hell do you have a couple million people that are in your community? Because I understand that we're early on that marketplace. I love your perspective on how big. Do you think we're early right now, or have we seen all the growth that's possible in the space?
What do you mean by marketplace?
Buyers and sellers.
But for cards or
for
collectibles?
For anything, because you and I both know, right? It'll be what's next as well as what already exists.
In my opinion, you guys are doing a lot of this is reducing friction. I think there's a lot of pent up transaction volume that is sitting at people's houses. It's sitting in closets. It's sitting in garages. Yeah, it's grading's a part of it, but a bigger part of it is just what do I own? And what is it worth? Is it worth grading? Is it worth selling? Is it worth putting on eBay? Is it worth the shipping? All that friction is there, and it holds back a lot of marketplace activity. We see it a lot at PSA and PCGS. Most of the time, if someone's grading something, it's because they intend to sell it. And so we see those questions, like you showed me the eBay connector, like what's the quickest way I can get this card or coin on eBay? And currently it takes weeks, months, from sending it in for submission, getting it back, deciding who to sell it through, creating an eBay account, and then shipping it, then maybe getting paid, maybe not. And then, and so then getting your paper, there's so much friction there. So I think there's, multiples, 5-6 times, like there's just, it's out there. It just hasn't been unlocked. So
I agree with that.
Your business is based off of
it. It is. We've done a lot of data. There's whatever people think, it's 5-6 times, 10 times. I believe that knowledge is power, right? That's a pretty simple concept. But if you give people knowledge and confidence, they will then grade a card. They will then buy cards. And Luddex, what we want to do is empower the collector by giving them as much information at their fingertips that's ever existed in the history of this industry. And I think with that, it could go, I don't even know where it can go, but it's really big.
Well, I can't wait, because 19 years from now, the David Meltzer 10 rated PSA baseball card. It's going to be worth a fortune.
There's exceptions to every
Oh,
rule.
there is. Damn it. Tell Mickey Mantle that. Anyway, I am no Mickey Mantle, but these guys certainly are in their space. Thank you so much, Brian, Nat, for joining me. This is Dave Meltzer live at the National here with Entrepreneurs, the Playbook.